Yo, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to undergroundwellness.com for part 2 of our Devil in the Milk series. We're talking about the book Devil in the Milk by Keith Woodford. Check that out, going through it with a fine-tooth comb. I posted a video a couple days ago. I told you guys I was going to look at all of your comments, and there were so many of them. Thanks so much for that. I looked for some of the most frequently asked questions. I'm going to answer those questions for you today. First, we're going to start off with, well, what kind of milk are we talking about? Like, which one has the A1, which one has the A2? And if you remember, A1 is the milk that has some harmful effects on the body. It's been linked with autism, multiple sclerosis, heart disease, which we'll talk about later today, as well as diabetes and a lot of other things. So let's look at the different types of milk. So we got A1, not so good. A2 is the good stuff. So goat's milk is A2. It's going to be hard to find goat milk with A1 in it. So if you're drinking goat milk, you're all good. That's straight up A2. If you can find goat milk, that's freaking awesome. Sheep's milk. Most of it, the vast majority of it, but not all of it, is primarily A2. You're good to go. Yak milk. I've never had yak milk myself. I'm definitely down to try it. But if you are consuming yak milk, it is A2 as well. So good stuff right there. Bos indicus is a subspecies of the cow. You can find Bos indicus primarily in like Africa, in Asia. Now those type of cows are going to be A2. Those are the original cows. And so that's why, for example, somebody who may be from India or somebody who's from Africa, they drink tons of milk in their homeland, but they move to America, they move to Europe, and they're drinking the milk there, and they just have all these, negative effects. They don't like how it tastes. It's just not the same milk. The reason why is because they're drinking milk from a whole different subspecies, which would be Bos taurus. And Bos taurus, again, are the European/American cows that typically have the A1. And this is another reason, like, people might say, oh, well, Weston Price, he studied the Maasai of Africa, and they drank tons and tons of milk and did not have heart disease. They didn't have these health problems. The reason why is because they consumed Bos indicus. Remember, that's from Africa as well as Asia. So two different types of milk. So Bos taurus, what we typically drink in the UK as well as America, is the not so good type of milk for the most part. Now let's talk about some of the breeds real quick. I didn't get to write it down, but I believe it's called Guernsey. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. I'm no expert on this. Guernsey. Those cows are pretty much free of A1. That's good. Now a Jersey breed would have a little bit more A1 than the Guernsey ones, but the black and white cows that we typically get our milk from have a lot more A1 than the Jersey cows. So look out for those black and white cows. If you're getting your milk from them, you may want to ask your farmer, hey, is this cow an A1 or A2 cow? And there are ways to test those cows, so just be on the lookout. Cheese was a frequently asked question, and this one's a little bit dicey. From reading the book, Keith Woodford, he said that sometimes scientists believe that the process of cheese making is going to deactivate the BCM7 that's in the cheese. And so it doesn't look like cheese is really a problem. It doesn't look like you're getting too much BCM7 from cheese to cause a negative impact on your health. Yogurt, we need more science on this one. There's really no science to say whether or not yogurt is a problem or not. Butter. Butter is primarily fat. Milk, cow's milk is typically 1-to-1 ratio of protein to fat, or I should say fat to protein. But butter is 80-to-1 fat to protein. So very little protein in there. Remember, BCM7 is a peptide. It's part of a protein. So if you've got very little protein in the butter, it doesn't seem to be a problem as well. And then lastly, people were asking about raw milk. As I said earlier, hey, go ask your farmer. Say, hey, have you been testing your cows? Are they A1 or are they A2? Okay, so that's kind of a rundown of the different types of milks. Somebody asked about pasteurization. There are different forms of pasteurization. There's one called the holder technique, and what they do with this one is they heat the milk up 63 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. Now, whenever you take milk above 48 degrees Celsius, that's when you get some denaturing, some breaking down of the protein. And as the protein breaks down, of course, you're going to get some BCM7. Now, what it looks like is the longer you heat up that milk, the more breakdown you get, and the more BCM7 you're going to have in that milk. So with this form, you very likely have a lot of BCM7. Again, more research is needed on that. But we don't really do Holder too much. What we do these days is a kind of an intermediate form of pasteurization where we have it at a higher temperature, a much higher temperature for a shorter period of time, and that tends to be a little bit gentler on the milk. However, which makes it less harmful for you. However, the Holder technique is typically done, not all the times, but typically done with ice cream. Because when you heat up the ice cream milk for a long period of time, it helps it to mix with the other ingredients a lot better. So you may want to keep an eye on how you react to different ice creams. Now, we'll talk about this more another day. I'm still trying to figure this one out, but just wanted to share what I have so far. And as a matter of fact, before I forget, it's a really good point. He mentions in the book that as heart disease rose, that was when we were drinking primarily Holder milk, Holder pasteurized milk. But when we switched from Holder, because a lot of people didn't like that cooked flavor that the milk had, when we switched from Holder and went to a different intermediate form of pasteurization, we saw a reduction in heart disease, which is really, really interesting. I got to look more into that one as well. Now, we talked a little bit about research, and this is from Dr. McLaughlin, I believe his name was. And when he looked at different countries, I believe there was 20-something countries here, and he looked at the amount of A1 milk consumed per day versus the heart disease deaths per 100,000 males who were 30 to 69, this is what it looked like. There was all these different countries here, and the more A1 they consumed, the higher the death rate from heart disease was. It wasn't like Ansel Keys. Like Ansel Keys had something that looked like this here when he was trying to show that saturated fat causes heart disease, and he just erased the ones that didn't fit and said, oh, it's a straight line. It's none of that. It's like this. It's very clear what's going on. And the chance that this can be due to some type of fluke is, what is it? Less than 1 in 1,000 chance that this can just be due to some type of fluke. If you do it with total milk protein, you don't get the same thing. If you do it with A2 protein, you don't get the same thing. As a matter of fact, we talk so much about this French paradox, and we talk about these Mediterranean folks who, drink lots of wine. They use olive oil, and the French especially have a lot of saturated fats in their diet, and they don't have a heart disease epidemic. What's really interesting is that the French in these Mediterranean countries actually consume A2 milk. They're not consuming too much of this A1, thus the reduction in heart disease risk. Kind of trippy. Now, I don't want to freak everybody out by this. I feel like I kind of did with that first video. Now, this is an issue primarily for people who have some type of leaky gut or permeability in their gut. Now remember, that BCM7 is a rather large peptide still. And that rather large peptide should not be able to slip through the gut lining. When you think about your gut lining, the barrier there, it allows good nutrients to go through, whether it be fats, carbohydrates, sugars, whether it be amino acids. It's like a gatekeeper that allows the good stuff to go through. You could imagine it as the screen on your windows. Okay, it's a hot summer day, you open up your window, there's a screen there. The screen allows the good air to come through, and it keeps all of the bad stuff out, the gnats, the flies, the mosquitoes, and whatnot. Now, what if someone were to come to your home and start poking holes in your window screen? And it's a hot day, you open up the window, now you get good air coming through, but you also have the gnats, the mosquitoes, the flies, right? And so that's how your gut works. When it becomes more permeable, when it becomes leaky, now this BCM7 can start slipping through. Now we've got a problem. So people who have gut dysfunction will really want to pay close attention to the stuff that I've been covering so far. Now, what causes leaky gut? Stress. birth control pill usage, pharmaceutical drugs, non-pharmaceutical drugs, food sensitivities, bacterial dysbiosis, an imbalance of bacteria in the gut. Bacteria can actually drill their way through your gut lining and create holes by something called zonulin. We'll talk about that on another day. Yeast overgrowth, parasites, inflammation in the gut. And one thing that's really interesting is babies. Babies, when they're born, have very leaky guts because they need big molecules to slip through their gut lining. And so when we're feeding babies A1 milk, you know, at the wrong time, that may be why we have so many people who are allergic to milk and dairy products. Really, really interesting. So that pretty much covers it today. I'm going to continue going through the book. Oh, one point that I missed. I love the new whiteboard. It makes making videos so much easier. You have no idea. But when this BCM7 molecule slips through the gut, gets places where it's not supposed to go, as we talked about last time, it has opioid-like effects on the brain. Okay, that's a problem. This stuff is not supposed to slip into the brain and hit your opioid receptors. But number two, and this relates to the heart disease component of it, it acts as an oxidant. Oxidants do damage to things around your body, including the lining of your cardiovascular system. And so that's where you're going to get oxidation of your LDL. Now, LDL cholesterol isn't really a huge problem. We need cholesterol, but when that LDL cholesterol becomes oxidized, that's where we have issues. Oxidized LDL cholesterol is going to lead to heart disease, which is going to give you something that looks like this. I'm out for today. Check out darksideoffatloss.com, my brand new ebook. If you just want to get access to the first chapter, go to darksidepreview.com. I'm out of here. I'll come back maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. If you missed last night's radio show with Mark Sisson, author of the Primal Blueprint, it was off the hook. It was like an Ask Mark Sisson show. Check it out on Blog Talk Radio. I'll put the links down there in the info box. I'm out of here, guys. Peace.